So recruiting. So we're going to do this little new segment, buy or sell. So there are some interesting teams in the top 10 in recruiting. I don't know if you've been noticing. Actually, I know that you have been noticing. But there are some very interesting teams in the top 10, top 15 that are in recruiting right now, like Kansas, Illinois, Louisville. And I'm not going to say USC is it's not weird to see USC in the top 10, if I'm being honest.
But for them to be number one overall at the current moment is unexpected.
All right, well, let's go to USC first. Are you buying or selling the USC Trojans, who currently, as of April the 6th, have the number one recruiting class in the country? Are you buying or selling that they'll be able to continue this kind of run in recruiting?
Blake, I've been a really huge critic of Lincoln Riley and his recruiting efforts, and I think that it would be natural for everyone to sit here and assume the way that I talk about USC that I would just immediately say, I'm out. I'm out. But here is what
I can't believe you're about to do it.
No, but there's one underlying thing about this of why I'm actually bought in. Lincoln Riley's actually doing the right shit. Anyone who has paid close attention to the recruiting landscape and who has paid attention to this recruiting class they've put together, they're finally doing the one thing that we have spoken so negative. They're actually recruiting Southern California. They're actually putting an emphasis on recruiting Southern California. I look at all of the locations of where a lot of their top guys come from. Brandon Lockhart comes from Los Angeles. You have RJ Sermons, who comes from Rancho Cucamonga. You have Trent Mosley, who comes from Santa Margarita, California, Rancho Santa Margarita. You are actually putting an emphasis on keeping the guys that are local, that you've taken a ton of pride on playing for this USC program, and you're keeping them home. There is one underlying difference here. And of course, we find a way to tie it back into Notre Dame. Chad Bowden, who was the general manager at Notre Dame, left because USC was aggressive about going and getting him, and they brought him in. And it is very clear that he knows how to go about roster building. And the way that you build a good roster at USC is you have a lot of guys that are proud to be representing Southern California and are staying in the area with all of the dang good high schools that are in the surrounding region. So that is by far the biggest takeaway from all of this early recruiting buzz before the summer comes around, that USC, if they finish top 5, I would not be shocked. I think it's going to happen.
All right. I am so proud of you, but you're going to laugh at me saying.
Don't be proud of me.
I am with you. I am actually buying it mainly due to the fact it does feel as if, I say they're locking the state down. It's a term that I've used in a long time, but they're locking their biggest region down. Yeah. Let's just put it that way.
Southern California is a separate state, basically. Northern California is a completely different part of the country. But yeah, continue. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I mean, they are starting to do so. It's funny, Joe. The one thing that we talked about on National Signing Day that they could not do is that they got obliterated by Oregon and Ohio State and some specific schools from around the country that took some of the top talent out of California. The conversation that you and I had was, so what did Pete Carroll do when he had that massive run? Well, he had Lane, he had Sark, he had Orgeron, who was basically his associate head coach, who damn near ran everything in recruiting, and they just didn't leave outside of the state of California. I remember Ed Orgeron talking about one day in a press conference. They asked him, it was like a spring practice. It was during COVID, so there was nothing going on. And they were like, Coach, I mean, there's nothing going on. Tell us a story about recruiting at USC. He goes, I went in a 30-mile radius, north, south, east, and west. And Pete told me my job is dependent on me locking down this region. Joe, they got like 98% of those kids. They lost like 3 in like a decade-long span. That is what he's got to do to get them back. It's the only way. You got to lock down the people that want to grow up and be a Trojan. That, like, you have to. You cannot convince me, well, kids these days, they don't. No, that's bullshit. USC is thrown in their face every which way. You know it and I know it. So you got to lock that down. Now, Xavier Griffin, who's the only 5-star that they have committed out of the state of Georgia. I don't know if that stays. But the kids...
I don't get why they keep doing that, by the way. They keep going for these kids in the state of Georgia.
They have some Georgia staff guys on their staff. So it is what it is there. But, I mean... They came in Louisiana and took the number 2 kid, but they paid him a crap load of money. I mean, they will pay money. Lincoln has got to just start locking down this other reach. So I'm going to be with you. I'm buying it too.
Yeah, I think that has been the biggest difference this year compared to the past, because last summer they had a very aggressive push, and they saw, or they didn't sign, but they had commitments from a number of guys that were out of state. And if you listen to any national recruiting shows, which I listen to a bunch of them to kind of get caught up on the names and know what's coming up. And at the time, a lot of the national analysts were saying, like, these are great commitments, but I don't know if they stick. That is a very long way for kids to travel. As much as money is really important, you're getting similar money all over the country. These guys still value being close to home and their parents being able to go to the games. Their parents also have an influence on their decisions more than ever, because they're trying to make sure that they make careful decisions and aren't just chasing money. Those with really good upbringings with good parents that are teaching them and trying to give them the right insight. So the guys that are coming cross country has always been a question mark to me. Those that are in and around California committing early, those kids aren't going to decommit. I would be really shocked if they end up decommitting. Like, I think that's like Oregon, so unlikely.
Well, unless Oregon or a team like that goes in there and takes them.
Well, so that's the biggest part about all of this, is that they're getting those guys that are local early, and it's easier to recruit the local guys because they're just right around the corner to you. They're all within a couple of hours drive. You're doing that before Oregon can start to reach their fingers in, and Washington and all those other northwestern schools start gripping in. So them getting it done now is incredibly huge for them actually finishing with the top 5 class.
The other team here, Joe, that we have to talk about is Kansas. Kansas currently sits with the 7th best class in the country. They did the exact same thing that USC did. Dude, they're dominating the state of Kansas recruiting. Now, I don't know how many great players come from the state of Kansas. I'm not going to act like I do. I am selling this. I mean, they were the 56th class in the country last year. They're getting kids out of their own state to commit now. But as recruiting continues to go on, it's not like we just got done talking about USC. Kansas is not the place that's going to go out there and just start shelling money and start being competitive when it comes to that kind of stuff. They're at 7th right now. Joe, I would be shocked if they end in the top 25. When I look at their recruiting class, okay, they got the top 3 kids in Kansas. They have done a really good job at the current moment of what they've done. They got 14 commits, okay? The problem is that I have with that, Joe, is, man, I don't know if teams come out of the state of Kansas. There's a lot of uncommitted kids, a lot. And they're going to fall, and they're going to fall drastically. Maybe they can get in the top 30, and that's great for them. I got to sell this because, man, I would need to see the unprecedented before I start saying I'm going to start buying something.
I would say sell, but like with the caveat that they could still finish with a top 3 Big 12 class, but they're probably not going to scratch the top 15. You just brought up, it's really interesting that they're sticking with a lot of guys in Kansas, and then a lot of the remaining guys are from states in the general area. What's really interesting when I was reading up on this is that a lot of analysts are saying that this is like a rare year for talent in the state of Kansas. So they've done a good job early of getting involved with a lot of the recruits in the state of Kansas. But the fact that this class is getting boosted by the fact that they have 2 4-stars and mostly just a lot of 3-star commits, as soon as like all of the top kids start committing to other schools, even if they keep most of this core together, Caden Snyder and JJ Dunnigan, who are the 2 top guys that they have, the corner and the offensive tackle, as soon as all those other uncommitted guys ahead of them, like you kind of just said, start to commit to all the big programs, the point scoring for how these classes work out, they're going to slide down dramatically. If they finish top 25, that's an awesome class for them. I'm selling on them being 7th because it's inflated like crazy, but at the same time, they're doing some of the right things by grabbing these 4-star kids that are in state.
Joe, they only had 6 kids enroll and 9 signed their letter of intent.
Last class?
Yeah, so they had 15. They ended 56. They're at 14 right now. They went and got 22 players out of the transfer portal. 22. So, listen, when I say sell, It's a lot like what happened to them last year. They went and got the local kids early. They got what the things surrounding them. Then they went and vastly destroyed the portal for them. People reacted, look at Kansas, top 7 class. Get out of my face with that. They're not going to – Joe, I feel confident in this. They will not stay in the top 30. Very confident.
Yeah, I probably won't happen.
It's not.
No, I don't disagree with that.
It's not going to happen.
But it doesn't mean they can't have a good class for their standards.
No, what are they doing? They're getting the local kids that they know that probably won't transfer, developing and building from within. They have to go about it a unique way. But to be in a top 30 situation, it's not going to happen. Well, look, here's the truth now. Kansas got money. They spend it all on – let's not act like they don't. The reason that they're competitive in basketball the way that they are is because they spend money in basketball like any – don't sleep on them for money. They put $25 million to their football stadium, whatever, and renovations and things like that. Okay, great. But spare me on that you're going to go out there and start spending money for NIL and football. All right. Joe, another one here. The Illinois Fighting Illini, currently one of the top classes in the 2026 recruiting class. They sit at 11th per 247 with 11 commits. Are you buying or selling that Illinois is a pusher in the recruiting ranks?
Man, I want to buy because I feel like Brett Bielema knows how to recruit, but I'm gonna have to go sell here.
Yes.
Another recruiting class that's kind of boosted by signing a couple of 4 stars and just like a bit. They have 10 commits at the current moment. I'm not gonna. I always get like really caught up with like where these kids are committing from. You know, a lot of kids from Texas and from Florida that are committed to Illinois. Like in all seriousness,
there's a flip alert. It's on their horizon.
There's a bunch of kids from Orlando and from the surrounding areas. There's a kid from Denton, Texas, Tampa, Florida, and then their top 2 recruits are from Ohio. The Ohio kids are realistic to end up sticking, but plain and simple, you talk to recruits in the cold. Right. You talk to kids that are from Florida that go to schools that are in the cold. Ask them if they thought it was a good idea or not. And they will always tell you that they're freezing their asses off.
Did you hear Micah Parsons this week on the podcast with Derrick Henry?
Yeah, I saw the clip.
He was like, I went down south to Alabama and I watched a practice and I'm like, it's too damn hot down here for me to keep work my ass off like that. So I think the opposite could be happening here.
Right.
I am massively selling here too. Come on. Come on. I mean, some of these schools that people are freaking out about buying or selling up top for some of these teams. Let's listen to some of these. Penn State, Miami, Oregon, A&M, LSU, Ohio State, Clemson, USC. That's not out of the realm for me. When I look at Illinois as an example, they're above Notre Dame, Tennessee, Arkansas, Auburn, Florida State. No, that's not going to happen. You know who all of these teams are ahead of right now? Georgia. No. Stop. Yeah. Please, God, stop what you're doing. Please. Illinois and the city of Chicago legitimately has a lot of good football players. They produce some insane football players. You know where most of them go? Ohio State. That is a fact. So until you can show me that Ryan Day doesn't have a 100 number straight to the city of Chicago and the surrounding areas, please spare me that the Illinois Fighting Illini are going to be anywhere sniffing the top 25 yet again. Joe, let's look at them last year. Their 2025 class, not necessarily a bad one, but they had 13 enrollees, and they had 9 players sign their letter of intent. Wait, none of them outside of the North? One kid from Florida? Oh, okay. So exactly what you just mentioned. They finished 46 last year. 46.
That would be an astronomical jump if they ended up finishing in the top. The top 10 is unrealistic. Having a mid-level Big Ten recruiting class is doable for them. It's just and this is the same thing that applies for the last one that we had on here that we wanted to talk about, which was Louisville.
Oh, I'm buying Louisville stock.
Well, but the thing that is automatically applied for these conversations is that if you don't have a commitment from like a big name kid or a couple big name kids that are at least high 4 stars, it's not the top players in your class might stay committed. That's not what the conversation is. Can you attract anybody else big to buoy the whole class.
Because you will have to
class.
keep it there.
Right.
Right.
And none of these other teams outside of USC, I feel confident that they're going to grab somebody big in the area.
Louisville did at one point have Reuben Owens committed for a long time. Here's how I'm going to take it with Louisville. From a numbers rankings, yes, I don't think that they can in there. So I'm selling on them being a top 25 class. I don't think it can happen. Joe, who was one of the best running backs in the ACC last year? Isaac Brown. And where did he go to? He went to Louisville. What has Louisville done that a lot of teams that go, let me just say it like this. Louisville has done something that goes unnoticed around the country. Joe, I feel like every year Louisville is just popping up and they're finding dudes.
Well, and they're developing better than anybody else. So it's like I don't need Louisville to end up having like a 5-star kid come in. I just don't. I would rather that they continue to thrive with the low 4 stars, high 3 stars, and develop them because those are the players that have played the best, or bringing in a key transfer.
Am I crazy in thinking this? Why is it every year I feel like under Braum, this going to be – so I say every year, the last 2 years. I'm like, this dude found a gem. It's like that Louisville went into recruiting like on College Football 25. They found a gem that everybody was sleeping on. You know how when you recruit in College Football 25, you can find these hidden gems. And all of a sudden, it's like, what in the hell is going on? Why do they keep – so I take it from sale if you're just going to go by recruiting rankings, right? If you just go by the rankings, yes, I'm with you because there's not going to happen. But the last 2 years, Braum and company have just found like good football players, really good football players. They are surrounding themselves by like, why isn't this kid getting recruited? And then you got Isaac Brown that shows up and dominates the ACC. Right. I am buying that part. I'm not gonna go
buy like fully. They're not gonna finish the top 10 class, but like if they top 25, I think it's totally in the ballpark.
It's definitely doable. But I'm buying. I am buying that they are identifying and scouting better than anybody. That's what I'm buying.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, nice little segment there. We don't get to talk about recruiting
catch up. Well, we're probably going to need to do it more because there ain't going to be shit to talk about for the next.
That is very true.